relationship with Ashoka?
So Ashoka was founded by a guy called Bill Drayton. He coined the term social entrepreneur. Okay, so what Ashoka is basically, it's like it's an organization that supports and funds social entrepreneurs. So if you are a social entrepreneur that has an idea that will change the world, that will eradicate poverty or have major education or healthcare, innovative business models that lift poverty up, you pitch to Ashoka and you go through a very serious screening process. But when you're selected as an Ashoka Fellow, you get funding and you get a lot of resources. You get pro bono McKinsey support, you get PR support, you get people like me. So Ashoka has an Ashoka support network of 400 executives that the social entrepreneurs can draw on to help with business planning and business modeling work and fundraising and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I am. I'm a Ashoka network. And so Ashoka, Ashoka's vision is that we become a world of change makers. This idea of getting the conversation going is not mine. It's Ashoka's. And how did Ashoka come up with it? There are hundreds of the 3,500 social entrepreneurs in the Ashoka network all over the world. There are hundreds working in one way or another on empathy, either through education, through healthcare, through play. There are entrepreneurs that are bringing kids together and teaching them values through soccer, through play, through education. It's amazing work. And so what Ashoka started to see, these entrepreneurs, they're 5-6 years ahead of us. They are thinking business models that nobody else is thinking, and they're solving problems in very creative ways. And all of a sudden you start seeing, well, if there's 400 of these people working on empathy, chances are let's think through that. And so we started thinking, how do we get this conversation going? My part in it is that the entrepreneurs tend to be working on the concept of values and empathy in kids and education. So building the next generation of change makers.
Sure.
I'm focusing as much on getting that conversation going in the business world. So who are the influencers in today's society? It's media, it's politicians, it's business people, it's educators. So if we're not talking to business people, and there are huge examples of companies that are doing really amazing things with shared value, in really creating social change and fostering social change through
Richard
their business
Branson.
Branson's for one of them, Nestle, Unilever,
Right.
And so part of getting this conversation going is helping people who care, business people who care, understand how they can do that. Not everybody's a Richard Branson.
No, but you can still take the steps.
Exactly. I have a friend called Eduardo Valarezo who owns a company called Lonesome George. He creates apparel. So Lonesome George is the tortoise in the Galapagos that just died. Just died. He was the only remaining tortoise of his species. And Eduardo said, the message that tortoise gave him is, don't let this happen again. How can we become agents of change? So he's using his apparel company to fund an outward bound program called the Academy of Agents of Change, where he trains young kids with social entrepreneurial ideas with the skills that they need to have to bring those ideas to fruition. And the best of those kids go into Ashoka's Youth Venture Program and become social entrepreneurs sponsored by Ashoka.
Sure.
Right? And so one way of creating shared value, 10% of my business's profits goes to Eduardo's Academy of Agents of Change. That's my easiest shared value premise. The work that I do sponsors shared value, sponsors social change. And so there's hundreds of ways in which businesses can apply themselves and create a value system that creates social profit as well as financial profit for them. And so that part I saw when I was working with Ashoka wasn't getting enough attention, is how do we get the conversation going? We're getting it going in the schools, we're getting it going with educators, we're getting it going in the media to some degree, but we need to get it going in the business world. That's where a lot of the power structure is, and that's where a lot of it, I was managing, 16,000 people when I was running DHL here in the U.S. I have influence over 16,000 people and their families.
What do they think about each day? What is the message they see on their email today?
And the right. What do they see when they see my business plan? When I'm dealing with employees, am I dealing with employees in an empathetic way? Am I putting myself in their shoes? When I'm dealing with my employees in Bangladesh or Afghanistan or in Singapore, do I impose my value system on them, or do I find an effective way to run my business in their culture? Those are all empathy. How I deal with my people, how I deal with cultures, how I create a business plan that has both a social profit component and a financial profit. And so here I am as a CEO, I'm leading thousands of people. I'm making a choice. I'm making a choice around what kind of influence do I have. Is it all about financial gain, or is it about social value? And so that's sort of the idea here. And that's why, this is as important for CEOs to read, to talk about. I was in a bar in Singapore, and two women were talking about this book. They'd overheard me talking about it 3 weeks earlier. And they were like, you would not believe this conversation I overheard. They went on for 10 minutes. I had my back to them, and I was smiling because the conversation was going. Not because I wrote a damn book. I hadn't written it yet. I was writing about it, talking about it. I was smiling because the conversation was going. And then I jumped in and talked to them. Another time I was talking about this concept, and I write about this in the book, and this guy leans over and he says, I love what I'm hearing here. What is it? I explained to him. At the time, it was 100 words. He said, I'm trying to find the 100 words that I can pass on to my kids. And he ended up, he was a linguistics professor. And he goes, I'm a linguistics professor. And he starts talking about how all words have the same root. And he goes, to really make this matter, you should limit it to 10 words. I said, 10 words? I can't even get it down to 100. But that's how 50 words came about.
Yeah, because people get into cognitive overload, and when you think of a little kid who's maybe, 8, 10, even 14 years old, 100 seems like a lot of work.
It's a lot. And
but
I think
50
in the classroom,
is a nice number.
In the classroom, it may be called my words. If a teacher wants to do this in one semester, if you do 20, that's
it starts it.
I think for an 8th grader, it might be 20 words. If you're doing a middle school or high school project, it's 50 words. But the point is, it's not the book. It's the thinking. It's the talking.
The process.
Having two kids talk about what gratitude means to them. My God, that it's not, and I talk about this. One of the things I learned was, in gratitude, they always say it's better to give than to receive. But one of the things I've found is receiving with grace is an amazing gift. How often do you receive a gift and then you immediately reciprocate? Well, it takes the value out of the reception.
Let the other person have
Let
their
them just
zone.
give.
Right.
But we
right,
always,
right,
it's like when we talk, while I'm talking, you're already thinking about the response. I make a gift to you, you're already thinking about how do I give back. And those are empathetic values of just sort of like staying in the moment and letting the moment happen. And in business, we never stay in the moment and let the moment happen. We give ourselves 10 minutes to discuss the financial performance of Malaysia, and then we move on and talk about the turnaround problem in the Philippines. And that's that
seems
mindset.
Efficient. It seems efficient.
It is efficient. It's efficient
in a limited way.
In a limited way.
Because it's not the most efficient way of handling really what's going on with the full picture. Now that we've talked about Malaysia, let's all just sit here and think, what does this mean? In fact, you've all received this information beforehand.
Right.
And now we're going to, and you've shared some of your initial thoughts.
Right. Right.
Wow. It changes how a business meeting would operate.
It does. It does. When I was doing my job in Asia, I said, we are going to have a social agenda on our business plan. And I said, I've already chosen that agenda. So, which is very unlike me, because when you're a team-based manager, but I said, I'm bringing my passion as a leader. I just got hired to be your CEO. And I got hired so that we make more money here than we have. I'm adding another agenda item. I want us to make social profit. And that means I'm going to bring all of myself to the table. And what I believe in is children, specifically girls' education. So we live in an area, Asia, 22 countries, many of them which are underdeveloped, many of which where girls are not getting an education. So our social agenda and our business plan will be that we will build a school in every country we serve with an emphasis on girls' education. And our business plan will measure that, that in 5 years we've built at least one school in every country, and we'll be able to measure, the progress that comes out of that. Now, what's interesting is from that, we then started talking to customers about it. And when I'm talking to a mining company, right now we're talking to a mining company in Australia that's going into Balikpapan, Indonesia. And we're talking to them about if we do the logistics work for you, then we will put a school into Balikpapan as part of that project. Now,
this comes out of the blue in the discussion.
But for a customer who is socially conscious, as this one is, that adds a lot of value. And now my product is not only about providing logistics services in Balikpapan, Indonesia. My product is providing logistics services and creating sustainability and social profit in those areas. And that differentiates me as a logistics company.
When
so all of a sudden
it comes to get a new contract, that's on your little
Of course. So all of a sudden, the passion we bring to the boardroom is a competitive differentiator. And that's what shared value is I'm making money in ways that improve the world as well, as opposed to just making money. And that's the boardroom conversation, right? That's what, let's stop and think about Malaysia. What are our objectives in Malaysia? How do we have a unique thing that we do? 3M makes malaria netting, right? They make a lot of money on it, but they've basically solved the malaria problem. That's shared value.
Okay.
There's ways for us to be business people and to be socially contributory. Branson gets that in a big way, right? But you can do it in the smallest of ways. Smallest of ways. What does a school in Balikpapan cost? Probably costs $20,000.
Oh, okay.
That's it, and you can create a school, but the impact of that school in 5 years, is huge.
Because you've created a safe space that girls can walk to.
Yeah.
And a destination.
Exactly. My wife says to me, goes, I can't believe you go talk to CEOs about empathy in the boardroom. You've been a CEO for 15 years. People are going to laugh you out of the boardroom. I said, either that or they're going to say, hey, look, this Hans guy, I'm going to at least listen to the guy, right? I'll give him 10 minutes.
Right.
He's either a nutcase or he's got something there. I'm pretty convinced I've got something there. So that's the idea.